in his many metamorphoses. Suddenly he is not the Father, he is the Son. So now I say to you, said he at the very end of the story, as the Father sent me, so send I you. He's playing the part now of the Father. He is no longer now the Son. He has departed the world and is returned to himself the Father. I will leave the world and go unto the Father. I came out from the Father and came into the world. Again, I am leaving the world and going to the Father. So I return to myself, who sets himself as me. So he comes into the world as the Son. And while he's in the world as the Son, having the experiences of humanity, he seems inferior to himself, the Father. And he is. For he took upon himself the restrictions and the limitations of humanity. Now we are told when he went towards the cross, he carried his own wooden cross on his back. Now, Abraham placed upon Isaac the wood upon his back. Isaac wondered, where is the lamb for the sacrifice? For he sees now the wood, and he's carrying it on his back. The Father has the knife to slay, and he has the fire to burn that wood. He's going to burn it. The burning is the experiences of man. Don't think you haven't been burned. I don't mean in flames. Experiences are the burnings that you have in this world. It's from innocence through experience back to God the Father as an awakened imagination. That's the whole story. So here the Father said to him, God himself will supply the lamb. He is the lamb, the symbol of the lamb. Now let's go back now to the 22nd chapter of the book of Psalms. Remember what we told you in the 22nd chapter of the book of Genesis. He took two young men, and he took the lad, his son, his only son. Hear now the cry of David. Deliver me, your son, your only son, from the power of the dog. Now, you read that and you wonder, what on earth are they talking about? Well, I have many Bibles at home. I haven't found one Bible that comes near the experience, because they're writing and speculating. They're theorizing. They have not had the experience. But the day that you meet David, who reveals you as God the Father, is the most exciting moment in eternity. And there are two young men. And they're saying, you are in spirit, but you're all wise. At that moment, David is obvious, the most beautiful lad you could put your eyes on. A lad in his teens, early teens. Beautiful beyond description. He symbolizes humanity. You've passed through all that man could ever put upon you. You've borne the far of the allotted time. And now they're going to restore your long-lost rank. You were God before you came down, and you're going to be God by going back. But you'll be enhanced by reason of the experience of becoming man. So you're looking at David. And here to your right are the two young men. The Bible, for reasons which might be obvious, they're spoken of as dogs. Look up the word dog in the concordance, the biblical concordance, and you will see it means a male harlot. Homosexuals in the service of the priest in the temple. That's who they were. But this story was before that the world was. It didn't develop. They were part of God's plan in the beginning of time. So here they are. You do not hurt them. You are the father now, the father of David, who symbolizes humanity. You're looking at this beautiful creature, and they are looking at him too. You're looking at him as a father to a son, eating him for his joy, his beauty, all that he means to you, his love. He is your darling, as the word also means my darling. But they're looking at him concupiscently. They're looking at him in the most lustful manner. And you warn them of his victory. and he's never failed because the Lord was with him. The day the Lord anointed him, the Spirit of the Lord came upon him mightily from that day forward and never left David. So David never lost a battle. And here is the head of the giant before you. This enormous head, severed from the body, as David severed the head from the body. And there it is on a table right before you. And here these two, and you do not a thing about it. It's part of the play. This play has been taking place before that the world was. And no one knows when it's going to come to an end. I can conceive of it coming to an end until every one of us experiences the play and becomes the father of David. For it's simply God returning to himself. That's the story. God came out from himself into the world, penetrated these bodies, annexed these brains of ours, and made them a portion of himself, a temporary portion. So while he wears the body is a part of the soul of the one who wears it. He will take it off, just drop it. It means nothing. But while he wears it in this world, it is a part of the soul of the one who wears it. So here, the garment is not the man. The garment is simply just what it is. It's a garment worn of flesh and blood, worn while he's in the world of experience of man. But I tell you from experience, you won't have to wait a second when you take off that garment to see what it really is as against what you thought it was. And when they are crying and weeping because you took it off, you can't believe that they could be so silly, but you were equally silly before you took it off. But nevertheless, you see it. Before I came out tonight, this university student from UCLA, he sits with my wife while I come to the lecture because she needs someone to answer the phone and to be present. And before my friend arrived to bring me here, we got talking about these things, these matters. He's from Cairo. He's an Egyptian. And he said to me, you know, my father had this dream. He dreamt that a friend of his was walking down the street with him. And as they're walking down the street, the friend fell. And there he died. He was dead. And many of the people came around and they began to cry and to weep. And they're all looking at him and weeping. A week later, he dropped dead. And the identical thing my father saw, he actually saw him saying to my father, what are they crying about? And here was the garment. They're crying over the garment that he's taken off. I have seen it time and time again. So I cannot be disturbed when a man takes off his garment. Yes, you miss the contact, the little physical contact. But the being who wore it is now clothed again in a garment just like it, but young. Altogether young and healthy. Whatever was missing before is not missing now. He's returned and restored to a healthy youth. Not a baby, young, I would say about 20. If he died at 100, he's now 20. And he goes through the same world of men, the same terrestrial world, to have the experiences that he must have in order to confront David. These are the three characters. Each are a symbol. Abraham, the symbol of God the Father, David, the symbol of humanity, and Jesus Christ, the symbol of God the Father, having gone through the experiences, because David now in the Spirit calls him Father. What think ye of the Christ? Yes. And they said, the Son of David. He said, well, how then in the Spirit did David call him my Lord? If David calls him my Lord, how can he be David's son? So he's telling you that David belongs here. It's the sum total of all the experiences of humanity. And it's a beautiful experience when the whole thing is over. Here it seems it's a horrible thing, but when it's all over, the result is transcendent. But that which comes out as the one who was sent to have the experience, because the Father sent himself as the Son. And Jesus Christ is the one having the experience. It is Christ in you that is the hope of glory. Were he not in you, you couldn't have the experience of being man. And so he suffers. And you call it, well, you are suffering. But as Blake said it so beautifully, Babel mocks, saying there is no God, nor Son of God, that thou, O human imagination, O divine body, art all a delusion. But I know thee, O Lord, when thou arisest upon my weary eyes, even in this dungeon and this iron mill, thou also sufferest me, although I behold thee not. Can't behold the being that is having experience as you do object in space, because the being having experience is that which is called imagination. You can't behold imagination. Imagination is the reality that is called this thing called God. So the voice answered, and it's your own wonderful human imagination answering. Fear not. I am with you always. Only believe in me that I have power to raise from the dead your brother who sleeps in this world called Albion. Everyone will rise. Not one can stop. They couldn't even stop it if they wanted to. There is no such thing as complete annihilation. There is no annihilation. You gave it up in the beginning to come here. And when you came here, you completely forgot. Total amnesia. You forgot who you were. Listen to the word. Return unto me the glory that was mine. The glory that I had with thee before that the world was. This is not new. You gave up the fatherhood and yourself came into the world as the Son, the one that is sent, the one that is now to be made a burnt offering. And you are the burnt offering in this world. And you pass through hell in this world. But you're still one with the Father. I and my Father are one. Even though my Father is greater than I. For I'll return to myself the Father, having experienced what I came out to experience. And I as Father will be enhanced by the experience of being man. Everyone is going to heaven. Not one will fail. So today, if I really see it clearly, you'll see this peculiar mystery in the Bible. The whole vast world is yourself pushed out, and all these characters are simply states of consciousness into which you can in one little moment vanish. You try to grasp him, and all of a sudden he vanishes into that one, into that one. You can't quite put your hand upon him. What you do in the depths of your being, and you bring back glimpses of it, and then you share it with your brothers, because in the end, we are all one. And yet, without loss of identity, you will be God the Father of David. And I know I am God the Father of David, and yet we are the same Father. We have the same Son, and yet we have no loss of identity. That is something that is difficult to explain. So this comes to us, this mystery called Christ. He comes to us as one unknown. Not from the outside. He's on the inside. He rises in us as one unknown. In the most strange, wonderful, ineffable mystery. Yet he is that one who lets us experience who he is. You don't see him, you experience being him. Because he was called Father by David. And David is going to call you Father. And may I tell you, when he does, it's not a shock. It's only the returning of memory. You know that you have always been that. That was taking place in the beginning of time. But no one could attain to that bliss except he was generated on earth. So man